For centuries, history blamed Mary I's terrifying unraveling on madness, cruelty, or even divine curse. In 2025, King Charles authorized scientists to unseal physical evidence kept since the Tudors. Early analysis suggests something far more complex may have plagued England's most notorious queen. We include real interview footage of King Charles speaking on camera. Could the real cause of her infamous decline and its chilling impact on the struggle for power finally come to light? The answers start here. On a cold morning in January 2025, British news outlets broke a story few expected. The announcement said that King Charles III had personally authorized a rare review of the royal archives, granting researchers unprecedented access to materials sealed for centuries. The report was broadcast live by the BBC and by Sky News, and it carried the full weight of royal authority. In a brief interview, King Charles III spoke of his responsibility as custodian of the nation's history, stressing the importance of confronting uncomfortable truths, no matter how deep they run. Cut to real footage of King Charles III giving an interview. His words were measured, but the implications were clear. For the first time, scientists and historians would be allowed to examine personal artifacts from the Tudor era, including objects that once belonged to Queen Mary I herself. This decision set in motion a process that would draw together archivists, forensic experts, and medical historians, all working under strict protocols. The palace's green light did not just open doors, it raised the stakes for what could be uncovered about one of England's most haunted reigns. Mary I claimed the English throne in 1553, inheriting a kingdom divided by years of religious conflict and political intrigue. As the first woman to rule England in her own right, she faced suspicion and resistance from the start. Her campaign to restore Catholicism led to the execution of hundreds of Protestants and a wave of burnings that would earn her the enduring name Bloody Mary. Yet even as her authority seemed absolute, Mary's personal life was marked by turmoil. Reports from her court described sudden changes in her health, episodes of swelling, intense abdominal pain, and emotional distress that baffled her physicians. Official bulletins described her decline as dropsy, a term used for unexplained swelling and fluid retention, but the true cause remained elusive. In a time when medical knowledge was limited and women's suffering was often dismissed as hysteria or divine retribution, Mary's struggles became fodder for rumor and fear. Early indications from a scientific re-examination could make this reassessment both sensitive and significant. Include real footage of King Charles giving an interview. Inside the Royal Archives, a select team of researchers began a careful process, cataloguing every object linked to Mary Wise. The list included her prayer books, letters, devotional cloths, and the quills she used for correspondence. Each artifact underwent strict chain of custody procedures, with detailed logs tracking every handoff and storage condition. Dr. Eleanor Marsh, a forensic historian specializing in archival science, directed the first phase. She explained that traditional sampling methods like scraping or chemical swabbing were off-limits because of the priceless nature of these items. Instead, the team relied on non-destructive technologies. They started with Raman spectroscopy and Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy, known as FTIR. These techniques use harmless light to read molecular fingerprints on surfaces without causing damage. For even more precise analysis, researchers employed liquid chromatography tandem mass spectrometry, known as LC-MSMS, to detect trace proteins and environmental DNA left behind by centuries of handling. Every step was designed to preserve the integrity of the artifacts while opening a new window into the biological and chemical environment of Mary's world. The technical gateway was open, but the real challenge would be interpreting what these silent witnesses might reveal. The film includes real footage of King Charles giving an interview, a moment that ties contemporary decision-making to this historical inquiry. Dr. Simon Caldwell, a leading endocrinologist, reviewed the laboratory data produced from the non-invasive sampling of Mary I's devotional books and letters. The analysis revealed clusters of hormone-related peptides, many showing patterns consistent with chronic endocrine disruption. These molecular traces, preserved for centuries on parchment and cloth, suggested abnormal regulation of adrenal and ovarian hormones. Such findings could account for the unpredictable physical changes, mood swings, and persistent fatigue described in Mary's private correspondence. Dr. Caldwell explained that in modern medicine, these peptide signatures often point toward conditions like adrenal tumors or autoimmune endocrine disorders. The presence of these signals in Mary's personal items raises the possibility that her symptoms were not just psychological or spiritual, but rooted in a serious, undiagnosed medical condition. This biological evidence, while incomplete, offers a clinical perspective on the suffering that shaped her final years. Spectral scans of Mary I's devotional cloths and ink-stained parchment uncovered something unexpected: distinct chemical fingerprints of heavy metals, mercury, lead, and traces of antimony. A toxicologist called in to interpret the results said these elements match compounds found in 16th century beauty formulas and medicinal salves. In the Tudor court, white lead was the main ingredient in facial powders, prized for its pale, flawless finish. Vermilion, a mercury-based pigment, colored lips and cheeks, and antimony appeared in eye treatments and ointments. Raman spectroscopy and FTIR spectroscopy revealed sharp peaks at wavelengths associated with these metals, confirming their persistent presence on the fabrics and paper. Prolonged exposure to such substances, the toxicologist noted, may have caused chronic swelling, fatigue, and even the neurological symptoms recorded in Mary I's later years. Taken together, the evidence suggests the Queen's daily environment was saturated with toxins, offering a new perspective on her mysterious decline. There is real footage of King Charles giving an interview. If you want more careful, evidence-driven historical investigations, subscribe for more groundbreaking reporting. Not every finding carries the same weight. Laboratory data drawn from centuries-old artifacts must be interpreted with care. Some results, like the detection of hormone-related peptides or traces of heavy metals, fall within a medium confidence range supported by multiple tests and cross-referenced historical records. Other signals, such as faint molecular signatures or ambiguous chemical residues, remain in the low confidence category and are flagged for further validation. Only a handful of observations, confirmed through repeated analysis and consistent with documented symptoms, reach high confidence. This separation between established fact and informed speculation is crucial. Each piece of evidence is mapped along a scale from tentative to well-supported, with careful, cautionary notes attached. By distinguishing what is strongly supported from what remains uncertain, researchers avoid overstatement and prepare for the next phase. The human record, with all its subjectivity, comes under the same careful scrutiny. Cut to real footage of King Charles giving an interview, his words placed alongside the laboratory findings as historians and scientists weigh facts against possibilities. A Tudor scholar sits in a quiet reading room, unfolding a letter penned by one of Mary's closest ladies in waiting. The handwriting is hurried, the ink faded, but the words cut through the centuries. The room is quiet and the moment feels almost sacred. The letter records that Her Majesty weeps without ceasing, even in the night. She cries out for relief from the pain in her belly, and she fears the darkness that comes before dawn. These notes speak of relentless pain and of a body that will not be comforted. Another letter, written weeks later, describes a night when servants found the Queen pacing her chamber, clutching her side, refusing food, and speaking of voices that would not let her rest. In the margins, a different hand notes that the Queen's colour is much altered. Her cheeks are swollen, her eyes red from tears. She begs the physician for sleep. The marginalia feel intimate and urgent, the words swollen standing out on the page. These accounts, preserved in the royal correspondence, reveal a woman beset by more than political enemies or religious doubt. They show the daily reality of a ruler battling overwhelming pain, confusion, and isolation. The scholar's voice falters as she reads a final line that pleads, "God grant her peace, for this torment is beyond bearing." These words, written in the shadowed corridors of the Tudor court, carry the weight of suffering that official histories often overlook. Modern clinicians working alongside historians began to assemble a symptom map that paired Mary's recorded behaviours with the biological signals detected on her possessions. The letters from her ladies-in-waiting describe episodes of swelling, sudden weight gain, and persistent abdominal pain. Symptoms that today often point to endocrine disorders such as ovarian cysts or adrenal tumours. Contemporary notes about her melancholy fits, sleepless nights, and periods of confusion align with patterns seen in patients suffering from chronic hormonal imbalance or prolonged exposure to neurotoxic substances. Medical archives document cases where mercury and lead poisoning produced hallucinations, mood swings, and even psychosis, mirroring the late-night terrors and emotional outbursts reported in Mary's private circle. The fluctuation in her physical appearance, from gaunt to bloated within weeks, matches the course of untreated endocrine disease aggravated by toxic compounds. While no single diagnosis can be confirmed, the overlap between historical testimony and scientific markers builds a plausible medical narrative. Rather than a ruler driven solely by ideology or malice, Mary may have been caught in a spiral of pain, fear, and physiological chaos, her actions and decisions shaped as much by invisible illness as by the pressures of the Tudor throne. Today, science reopens doors history tried to seal. As genetic and chemical forensics reshape royal narratives, the line between legend and diagnosis blurs. Mary's suffering echoes in every misjudged life, then and now. The past is not dead, it is waiting for us to finally understand it. Share your thoughts below. Subscribe for more groundbreaking historical investigations.